In the late 1400s and early 1500s, the great European explorers set out to discover new lands and new peoples. They included John and Sebastian Cabot, Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan, Amerigo Vespucci, and many others. Now, what was their motivation? They were looking for wealth: gold, silver, slaves, spices, etc., etc. Increased power in Europe, prestige, increased opportunities for trade, spreading the Christian religion, building European empires. In other words, God, glory, and gold, and not necessarily in that order. To some, they called them great heroes. To some of the indigenous people who already lived in the lands that these people wanted to claim, they were pirates, kidnappers, and murderers. Now, these men did not just jump into ships and go because it was very expensive. So they usually went to the king or queen and said, hey, how about funding me for an exploration and I can bring you back really great things. So usually when they went, they were given permission or charters from the kings and queens. They gave them permission to claim the land that they had just discovered and the people that were on it. And gave them all kinds of other good things too. Of course, the indigenous people that lived there were given no say whatsoever in this matter. And there was also this nifty thing called the Treaty of Tortosia. You see, Spain and Portugal were rivals at this time, but they wanted to go out and explore. So they went to the Pope, Alexander VI, Roderick Borgia, and said, hey, how about giving us the lands that we're going to explore? And he looked at it and he said, yeah, okay. So he drew a line down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, about 1,000 miles west of Cape Verde Islands, and said, everything that's on the east of it, Portugal can have. Everything on the west of it, Spain can have. Except for and if you get to a place and the people are Christians, then they're out of bounds. They can't do that. About 2 or 3 decades later, they extended this line around to the other side of the globe. No, the rest of the European countries, they didn't sign this treaty, so they didn't bother with it at all. And the indigenous people, they never acknowledged it either. Go figure. So let's take a look at some of these explorers. Christopher Columbus, the discoverer of the New World. The discoverer of the New World. And I say it like that because actually in 1497 and in 1504, Amerigo Vespucci made a couple of voyages to the New World. And then he wrote some booklets in 1503 and in 1505. And these booklets were very, very important. They were published in his name, but they contained colorful descriptions of these explorations and the alleged voyages. Now, both of these publications were extremely popular in Europe, and they were widely read. And they were instrumental in raising the awareness of the new discoveries and enhancing the reputation of Vespucci himself. And a cartographer, which is a map maker at the time, was so inspired to recognize Vespucci's accomplishments in 1507 that he gave the Latinized form of America for the first time to a map showing the New World. And the rest of the cartographers thought this was a good idea, and they got together. By 1532, everybody thought the new lands were called America. That's why we live in America today. Isn't that cool? Now back to Christopher Columbus. In 1492, he landed somewhere in the Caribbean. Nobody knows exactly where. But he encountered the people called the Licano, the Taino, and the Arauca. But he noted that they were wearing gold in their ears. So he took a couple of their Arawaks prisoner and insisted they guide him to the source of gold. Nice introduction. Without realizing it, Christopher Columbus had started what's called the Columbian Exchange or the Columbian Interchange. Now this is where plants, animals, precious metals, culture, human beings, technologies, diseases, ideas are interchanged between the new and the old world. Now, some of these exchanges were on purpose, like the Spanish bringing all the gold back from the New World to the Old World. And some of them were accidental, like the communicable diseases. Now, these diseases actually wiped out 85 to 90% of the indigenous peoples in the Americas. To repopulate, the African slaves were brought over, and the Europeans came over. Now, the African slaves outnumbered the Europeans by a lot for the next 3 centuries after Columbus. So there we go. So the next one is Ferdinand Magellan. Ferdinand Magellan was Portuguese, but he sailed for Spain. And he took 5 ships and 281 men and sailed around the world. Unfortunately, only 18 of the men made it actually back to Spain, and Ferdinand Magellan was not one of them. See, he died in the Battle of Mactan in the Philippines. Apparently, there was a chief there named Lapu-Lapu who did not want to convert to Catholicism, and he fought back against Magellan, and Magellan was killed. And Lapu-Lapu is honored as the first Filipino national hero to resist foreign rule. Francisco Pizarro. Emperor Charles of Spain gave him the title governor and captain general that carried absolute authority in all the territories that he might discover. In November of 1532, Pizarro reached Cajamarca and captured Atahualpa, the emperor of the Incas, and thousands of Incas were killed in this battle. In 1533, Atahualpa, he offered a massive ransom. He said, "I will fill this 22-foot room that I am in up to this height with gold if you'll let me go." And in 1534, that treasure ransom was collected. And then Pizarro and the Spanish took the treasures and had Atahualpa, the last of the Inca emperors, strangled. Vasco da Gama was a Portuguese explorer and the first European to reach India by sea. He was looking for a way to the Spice Islands. You see, the Spanish did not want to go through the Mediterranean and then through the Middle East to get to India, because they just spent the last 700 years kicking the Muslims out of Spain. So they didn't like each other. They were at war. So Vasco went around the Cape of Good Hope. Now, this is widely considered a milestone in world history. Da Gama's discovery of the sea route in India opened the way for the age of global imperialism and enabled the Portuguese to establish a long-lasting colonial empire along the way, from Africa to Asia. In other words, they made a whole lot of money. But the violence and the hostage taking that he used, and those that came after him, gave the Portuguese a very brutal reputation to the indigenous kingdoms. And it actually set the pattern for Western colonialism for the rest of the age of the exploration. So thinking about all these people and what they were doing, I want you to consider the juxtaposition of what was happening in another part of the world at the time. I'm going to read you a poem written by His Holiness, the second Dalai Lama. A simple song of fun. A wise man like me makes tea his pleasure. Beverage of nectar the color of saffron, camphor its only rival in fragrance, delicate porcelain its vessel of choice. Drink tea, a friend to those seeking wisdom. Everyone wishing to sing melodious songs of fabulous verse into all directions, gorge yourself first on the drink of sages. Have a few cups of tea, and then like the famed hermit Lupa, you will quickly gain city. In the quest to accomplish the wisdom tradition as taught by the mighty Tathagata himself, keep inner vision as your peerless guide. Launch into meditation on the nature of voidness, legacy of Nagarjuna, and accomplish his state. Mastering the essence of the profound scriptures, numerous beyond count, and accomplishing the ocean of practices like the 6 perfections, place all sentient beings, blind as cattle, on the path leading to knowledge, freedom, and joy. Quench the thirst of living beings' needs, regardless of the personal sacrifice required. Strive to generate the confidence necessary to meet with wisdom the challenges that arise, and to overcome the fox-like distractions of fools. Until stability in practice has been gained, value the life of simplicity and contentment. We are jewels of learning, reflection, and meditation, with the wish to become a gem to this world. Wondrous indeed will be the results. Worthless are all things ephemeral, yet worldly people see them as supreme. Like xanthic metal, or gold as it's called. Yes, they waste their lives seeking peace in them, zealously clutching at what always slips away. Oh, hark, such is my alphabetic song, and if you really care for yourself, you should be just like me, unequaled on this earth. Ha, there I go again, making too much noise. But it's just a song voiced in fun, a few idle verses from the pen of the poet, Yangshan, Shempe, Dorje, the melodious laughing Vajra. So who would you rather meet in your travels? Now you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with the Dharma? Well, the 8 worldly concerns jumps to my mind really fast. Hope for gain and fear of loss, hope for pleasure and fear of pain, hope for a good reputation and fear of a bad reputation, hope for praise and fear of blame. You see, the great explorers, they went out to find wealth, fame, and glory. They were thinking about what they could take and what they could give to the new lands and people that they encountered. They wanted to give Christianity to the people. And when those people were not appreciative of their things, great atrocities happened. And many of the people were taken into slavery. Gold, silver, slaves, and indeed anything that the explorers thought might be valuable was stolen and taken back to the New World. But you know, that was 500 years ago. But it doesn't seem too much has changed in that time. Witness the grab and dash robberies that are going on in cities across the United States. But it doesn't have to be that way. You see, every day is a new expedition. We go out and meet people and whatever else there is to see in this vast world that we live in. And maybe we've known these people since forever. Maybe we'd only go in a little bit. But each day can be a new adventure, a new opportunity to learn and grow. Each new day, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we the center of the universe, trying to convert people to the way we are thinking? Are we trying to get something from them? Usually we're so involved with the 8 worldly concerns that we forget that everyone else is just like us, lost in their own worlds and sufferings. Maybe we should consider inviting them to a cup of tea, take time to enjoy ourselves and their company. See, the Dharma gives us the information we need to become awakened. How we go about putting it into action is entirely up to us. Let the adventure begin.